Well, hello, welcome to another fantastic episode of Conversations with Glenn.
Fantastic episode.
I just say something different every time. So it was a crazy week in the news, but also a bit of a historical week for you, Glenn. 15th anniversary.
Oh yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So
15 years. My wife and I were laying in bed last night. We were talking about it, and I said, remember when we met, and when we got married, she literally, I said, move to Florida. I have this job opportunity, and let's just try it for 2 years. And if it doesn't work out, I'll go be a chef or something. I'll go back. I'll go to culinary school, and I'll become a chef. And I said, can you believe the last 15 years? We were just recalling the things that we've been allowed to do and see, and I mean, we're the most blessed people in the world.
let's go back a little bit, though, to the actual meeting of Tanya, because I think this probably fascinates a lot of people. And I know you've talked some about it, but I haven't really talked about that. I mean, tell about that first time, like the
very first time we met in a parking lot.
How did that happen?
I was working at the radio station, and I was talking to my then on-air partner about some crazy idea I'm sure I had. And we were out in the parking lot, and she walks by, and she hears my voice, and she stops, and she said, "Are you Glenn Beck?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "I just want to thank you for all the laughs." Now think how much life has changed now. That's the last thing she said to me now.
That's something that people forget about you, that they don't. I mean, you always go like, "Oh, it was just lost in my career at that time." Well, I grew up in Connecticut, and like you were the guy in Connecticut, and so everybody in Connecticut grew up with Glenn Beck and Pat and Casey 101 in the morning. So
she said, I grew up listening to you, and I was like, okay, thank you. And she just walked in, and I didn't give it a second thought. And then I think a week later, I was someplace, and I was doing a grand prize, drawing for something. And I met her a second time. I didn't remember that I met her in the parking lot. And I met her a second time, and she actually thanked me for losing. And she lost, and she came by, and she said, "Thank you very much. It was a very nice time." And I'm like, and I actually said, "Hang on, what's your name?" And she just looked at me like, "You're such a loser. I met you just a few days ago." And she said, "Tanya," and I said, "Hang on just a second." And I introduced her to everybody, and I said, "She just thanked me for losing. That's the kind of people that we all should be like." Well, she was humiliated, and so she left, and unbeknownst to her, I had been praying for the last couple of weeks because I was really struggling with my alcoholism, and I was about to fall off the wagon. And I think I'd been sober for about 4 years, and I just couldn't hold it. And and I had been praying for, put a roadblock in my path. And I'm actually driving in my car to the bar. It's Thursday, and I said, I had prayed for a week, put a roadblock in my path, because Thursday I'm going to this bar, and I'm walking in, and I'm ordering a Jack and Coke. You put a roadblock up. And I'm driving my car, and I actually was talking to God in my car driving, pissed at him. "I told you, your fault. Roadblock. That's all I asked for, roadblock. Can't do it anymore." Got to the bar, ordered the Jack and Coke, literally standing there at the bar, had the Jack and Coke in my hand. Before I lifted it to my mouth, I turned around and looked across the bar, and as I turned around, there on the other side of the bar was Tanya. And I put the Jack and Coke down without taking a drink, and I walked over, and I said, I'm such a social freak, you know me, I don't do this. And I didn't go and ask her if she wanted to leave. She was with a group full of friends. I said, "Hey, Tanya, isn't it?" She said, "Yes." And she was with a bunch of people, and so I felt so awkward, I didn't want to ask her to leave. And I said, "Are you with your friends?" And she's like, "Yeah, freak boy." And I said, "Hey, why don't you guys, do you want to leave? It's kind of loud here. Why don't we all go out for like something to eat at the Denny's or whatever. And so they were all like, okay, that's weird. And then I left, and a friend was with me, and I said, and everybody was leaving, and I said, oh crap, I don't have any money on me. I got to go to an ATM machine. And I said, if you get there, save the seat next to her. And so I went to the ATM machine, and they had been there for a while and all ordered, and they all thought that I stood them up. And so I went and sat next to her, and we have not been apart since.
It's amazing.
Well, that is. I'd never actually heard that part of it about you being literally on the way.
No, I was.
To drink in
She
hand.
was my roadblock.
Wow. That's pretty
She
amazing.
was my roadblock.
Unbelievable. Speaking of roadblocks,
Well, that.
over vacation, we know you as like the most impatient, instant gratification. You're always running. Like you don't sit still. Your life is scheduled to the point of every 6 seconds. So you decided to sit on a bus for like
Drove me out of my mind.
4,000 hours
Drove me out of
two
my
dogs,
mind.
2 little children, and
Two
Tanya.
wet dogs.
Yeah. Yeah. I initially, when I first saw, as I was watching this afar from my Facebook feed, and I said, someone has either abducted Glenn's Facebook account or someone has a gun to Glenn's head and they're
Tanya.
saying, you're going to do this.
She said,
Tanya.
let's be the Griswolds, let's just do it.
Here's what she said. I said, because I had altitude sickness.
Yes.
Okay, and I couldn't breathe. Have you know anybody who's ever had altitude sickness?
I've had it, but not to that
It
level.
was
but it's
spooky. I mean, I was
painful.
up all night. I was afraid to go to sleep because I thought I was going to die. Because you just can't breathe. You feel like you're being suffocated. And so I just can't take it anymore. And I don't know what's happening. And all of my other symptoms are all because of the lack of oxygen.
Sure.
It's just everything's triggering. It's just miserable. And I said, we got to go home. So finally, we get a hold of a doctor up there, and I go in. It's Sunday night, and I go in to see the doctor, and he's like, "Oh, you got altitude sickness. You got to get out of here, and we got to give you some medicine." So I could go home, and I said, "Tanya, I have to be on oxygen. Have to take this medicine. We have to get out of here." And she said, "If we go home, you will go back to work." And I'm like, "Well, what are we going to do?"
It's you, yeah.
Yeah. And she said, "We're not going home." And I said, "Well, where do you want to go? What do you want to do?" And the kids immediately were like, "Anaheim." and no, didn't want to do that. And so I think I suggested, how about we get into a car and we drive out to California. I wanted to go see San Simeon. She was not into that. I said, let's just go and we'll just spend a few days out there. And then somehow or another it turned into this long Griswold bus trip that was. And here's the problem. It would have been fun. We decided it would have been fun. We'd do that again, just not the way we did it. I really want to do it with listeners. I think it would be so cool.
You want to subject strangers to this?
No, it would be fun. I'm telling you, it would be fun. If you did it in a way to where you either drive at night or you're only driving like 4 hours a day.
You guys were
We
driving
were driving like 14 hours a day. And so it was just, and then you get in at, midnight, and then you'd only see, you'd see a town in the middle of the night, and then you do it all over again at 8 o'clock in the morning.
And you're just
so
in
it
a bus
sucked.
looking out of the window. I did the same thing when I was in Scotland. Like, I was just driving. I saw all of Scotland, but from a bus, just looking out
Yeah, I mean,
a
I could
window.
just I rent a video. We ended up watching movies, and it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And traveling with the dogs was a nightmare.
You made a couple comments out there during the trip about how California's obviously a beautiful state, but you were saying, I think it was California, somewhere in California, you were like, this is where I would live if California wasn't, California.
Progressive, crazy.
Yes.
So what was your
what's
most
your ideal place?
memorable stop? Because you did have some
Most
great
memorable
meals.
stop.
and-
Let me first start here. When you come across on Highway 1, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, so I'm used to the Pacific Ocean. And there is something, and I don't know if anybody, you might feel this way about Long Island or something. The minute I land in California, I can't say this about Oregon, but I feel this way about Washington State. The minute I land, I immediately have a totally different feeling. I just feel like, oh, home. It's this weird thing. I never grew up in California, but it's the Pacific. You know what I mean? And so if I could live, when I was a kid, I wanted to live in California. I always wanted to live in California. And I came across, we were in the wine country, and these beautiful green mountains. And you come across and you turn this one corner and the mountains just part and there's the Pacific Ocean. I was just, I honestly would have stopped the bus and just put stakes in the ground and said, we're moving here.
Yeah. It's like the perfect storm of, first of all, it's just aesthetically beautiful, but then it's the perfect storm of climate too, because you've got the hills, and so it traps the air, it keeps it nice on one side, you know.
What they're doing now to California, the farmers out there, it is an abomination. The EPA is destroying, and people don't understand, that's our breadbasket now. That's where most of the food comes from. And they're destroying these farms. It's a dust bowl out there. I'm driving through the farmlands of California, stunned, just stunned. I've never seen it like that before. It's bad. It's bad. They're destroying that state. It's the most beautiful state in the Union, by far. It has everything, and they're destroying it.
Yeah.
So I guess then your goal for the future, though, is to take listeners on this journey with you, right?
Seriously, come on.
He's saying
Wouldn't that be fun?
America.
Wouldn't it be fun?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be fun if we said, hey, we're going to go see these things, and it's going to take us this many days, and you don't have to go the whole trip, but you want to go for 3 days. We're going to go see, the Grand Canyon, and we're going to spend 2 days there. Then we'll go to Bryce Canyon, we'll spend 2 days there, and then we'll go to San Simeon and spend a day there.
I want you to do it just so then we can recap after and see if you still feel the same way.
Oh, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how long it will take me before I can do it, but I think it would be a blast.
Okay, you guys heard it here first.
Yeah. Yeah. The other fun thing you could do, like,
come on, who's with me?
I agree.
That'd be fun.
It would be fun. And, the Imagine Dragons did a really cool thing lately. That band, they posted like a kind of a on their Facebook page something like, hey, and there was like a hidden coordinates in it. And this like 13-year-old fan figured it out, and they went out into the desert, and in the desert they found the coordinates, but dug it up. They had a box with like a guitar in it, signed, everything else. So you could have stuff like that along with your trip. I think it could be fun.
I'm telling you.
Okay.
I'm not going to give you any details, but a few listeners are going to be getting invitations from me and Tanya. Nobody knows. I haven't told this to anyone except one person in the company, and they're working on it right now. A few listeners are going to get invitations from me and Tanya to do something very personal, maybe about 25 people, to do something very personal in the next 60 days, someplace where I'm going to be, and there are going to be no cameras, there's going to be nothing. It's just me, and because I've got a theory on something. When I traveled the country and I met the people, when I'm with, when we used to do the big events, I love our listeners.
Fantastic.
I love them. They're fantastic. I want to spend more time with them.
This is good. This is a good development because, like you were saying, describing Glenn's personality before, and he's just running around. When he's not face to face with the fans for a while, Glenn tends to get in this mode of thinking like, there's not one person in America watching us right now. That's like, we're just completely off the planet. We're like, no, Glenn, it's the same. But then you get out there and you're like, oh my gosh, we have fans.
No, but it's just, I think in about 2 months, I'll give you a report, and I'm not going to post it, I don't think, because I'm not going to bring any cameras or anything.
That's cool, though.
But I'll give you a report of what we did and how it went. And I think that when we travel and when we do stuff, I think I just want to hang.
Good.
It'll be fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.